So on June 26, 2003, at this point, Lena is 17. She meets with Albert. And this is where we're going to play the confession tape. I'm going to go find it on my phone real quick.
She confessed when she was 17?
She confessed when she was 17 in 2003.
Okay.
She confesses to Albert. Let me pull up the clip, and I'll play the confession tape for you guys.
All right.
Who killed Gary?
Mom. Okay. He was still on the couch and was on the bed. She walked out and shot him 3 times in the head. Two, maybe 3 times. And they on the couch. And she cleaned the carpet when we got home. And she wrapped him up with paper, plastic stuff. And hay string. And the bedroom floor.
In the bedroom floor?
Dragged into the bedroom. And then she walked the door and everything. And when we got home, Mom made me stay in the bedroom because she didn't really see, but I already seen. Because I looked through because I didn't believe it. And I wanted to see. And she took her and she put him in the truck. And she left.
That's the initial confession that Lena gives to Albert, and Albert recorded it. There is another part. I have to skip there. But, if you give me just a second, I'll pull it up.
How would a person go about doing that? I mean, is there any way that we could do that?
There's nothing. There's nothing whatsoever left. There's a he's burned. Completely burned. And everything that was even left as a burn pile was put in buckets and spread all over. So I don't remember where they're at. I was there. I'm the only one that knows. I'm the only one that knows exactly what happened. But there's nothing left. Whatsoever.
Okay. So we've heard that confession tape. What was your first thought when you listened to that confession tape?
Well, first off, doesn't it take like a very hot fire to actually burn a body to ashes?
Yeah, it does, but you got to think about it. They were on a farm. They probably burned shit all the time, their garbage, instead of having it picked up because they lived so far out. And they had cow manure. And that shit burns.
I was going to do a search for how hot it would have to be, but I'm afraid of getting on a watch list.
How hot does it have to be to burn a human body?
Somebody might be concerned about what I'm searching. So, you know
Your
what?
FBI agent is a little bit worried.
Yeah, I'm...
He's like, Steven, listen, buddy.
Just know I think it's very hot. I'm not doing
It's extremely
a search.
hot. That's why they have to have special cremation ovens.
Exactly.
I worked at a veterinary clinic for 5 weeks every single Friday for 8 hours when I was the summer before my freshman year, and sometimes we had to cremate dogs. I was never a part of the cremation of dogs, but it had to be so hot that they could never actually turn it off. They couldn't turn the oven off until the end of the night. Like, they came in, I think, an hour or two early to start the oven up, and it stayed on all day in case they had a dog come in that would have to be cremated, and they wouldn't turn it off until the end of the night, because if they turned it off at all, it wouldn't get back up to temperature.
Yeah, see, now I'm curious how hot that fire was.
And Albert says that he truly believes that Lena was telling the truth.
I believe she is too.
He said that Lena was trembling, she was shaking, and he said that the way that she spoke, he knew that it was true, and he knew that she had been living with this since she was 13, 14 years old, and he knew that it was something she had to get off of her chest. And he said that he cared about her deeply, and to see
Well, this
her.
is technically his ex-stepdaughter.
Exactly.
You know, it's not like this is just someone he knows. This is someone he helped raise for 2 years. 2 to 3 years.
But, you know, he said he cared deeply about her, and he said that when she came in that day, when she came into his house, she was extremely troubled, and she was shaking, and he said at some points, like after the recording was finished, she would cry, because she had just held that in for so long. You know, if we assume it happened when she was 13 and this is when she's 17, that's 4 years of holding this in. And she loved her stepfather. You know, that's one of the things the girls all say, that they loved their stepfather, Gary. So it must have been extremely difficult, and I can't even imagine what she experienced. Just sitting with that and having to sleep with that every night and having to sit in silence when you're in the bathroom or at school or on the bus. You have nothing to do. You have nobody to talk to because her sisters are all younger than her, except for Brandy. And just to hold that in and go through that again and again and again every time you're by yourself and quiet.
Yeah. No, I do not envy this poor young woman.
Just, it's horrible.
She had to grow up real fast.
So, moving along, I apologize for that, if that was something that was a little bit much for you guys to hear.
I feel like if you're listening to this podcast and you've already seen the episode.
Oh yeah, but I know, like, some things just trigger people. Like, you know, there's a case about the doctors, allegedly, on TV. They allegedly lied to this girl about getting her a new nose. And the pictures can be very triggering to some people. Like, the pictures, because of the type of, like, cancer she had skin cancer. And they had to take slices of her nose, and her nose was almost completely gone. So the pictures of her can be very triggering. So probably should have put a trigger warning there. I apologize if it was too much for you guys.
I feel like the trigger warning is you're listening to a podcast off of an episode of Unsolved Mysteries that's already triggering.
Some people just don't like graphic stuff, so I just figured it's okay to apologize.
I mean...
so the next day,
sure.
Sandy gets Lena a lawyer. And this lawyer that Sandy pays convinces Lena to retract her statement. And that then makes it unadmissible in court. From the day that she recants it, it's unadmissible in court.
Yeah.
So, Lena tells Brandy what happened to their mother. Or what their mother did to Gary. I don't know why I said what happened to their mother. What their mother did to Gary.
What happened to your mother? She's crazy.
She's crazy. And the next day, Brandy gets into a really horrible fight with her mother, which I can't blame her for. If I found out that my mother killed my fucking stepfather, I'd be like, I don't have a stepfather, but I assume you grow to care for those people. So, I'd imagine that I'd be pretty pissed off with my mom too, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So she gets into a fight with her mother, and Brandy tells her mom, she tells Sandy, I know what you did to Gary, and I'm going to call the police and tell them what you did to Gary, and you're going to go to jail. And Sandy gets real calm, real stoic, and tells her, get in the truck. Once Brandy is in the truck, Sandy starts to drive. Or Chris starts to drive. Somebody starts to drive. Because Chris also comes along with them. They head...
This based on the footage of the show. Sandy was in the passenger side, so...
Okay. So Chris then drives them out.
It seems like it was Chris driving. Yeah.
Chris drives them out to a secluded part of their little farm, their little ranch, and they put a gun to Brandy's head. And Brandy's in the back of the truck, so she said she climbed over the back of the truck into the truck bed. And she sat there, and she didn't know what to do, because she said she knew if I ran, that they were going to kill me. So she said that she didn't want to run because she didn't want to die. So she sat there and thought, and the best thing that she could think to do was to climb into the passenger side of the truck with her mother and beg for her life, which is exactly what she did. She got into the passenger seat of the truck with her mother and grabbed onto her mother and begged her, please don't let him hurt me. Please don't let him hurt me. Please don't let him hurt me. Like, she's screaming, she's crying. You know, even when the gun was being pointed at her, she was screaming for her mother, crying for her mother, begging her mother, and her mother would not turn around and look at her. Her mother continued to look straight ahead at the road in front of them. She wouldn't turn her head at all. So she gets into the passenger seat with her mother and she begs her mother for her life, and her mother's like, don't hurt my baby, Chris. Like, she wasn't going to let him fucking kill Brandy. And he puts the gun down, gets in the truck, and they drive home. And she knows from then on that while she's living with Sandy, she cannot say anything about it ever again because she doesn't want to die.
Yeah, that's... Whew. Yeah, it seems like maybe Chris is a big reason for all of this.
I think so, too. I don't think that Sandy shot him. I know that that's what Lena says in her confession tape. I don't think that Sandy shot
Gary.
I don't think Sandy shot Gary. I think that Chris shot Gary.
And I'm guessing it's Chris that killed Lena.
Me too.
And maybe Lena just didn't think to beg her mother, or maybe he did it while her mother was not.
I think that Lena was killed with Sandy's blessing, because Sandy knew that if Lena went to the police, which she was trying to become more independent, we find that out later. In November of 2004, Lena's son Coulter is born, so she's 18, and Robin said that she genuinely fears that Sandy killed her sister. And the reason she said is because in 2006, Lena had plans to get married and to be independent, which was a huge threat to Sandy, right?
See, I have no questions on the motive for killing Sandy. There's two obvious motives that we get about Sandy.
One of them is obviously the fact that once she's independent from Sandy, Lena can then speak out as much as she wants about the murder of Gary.
To protect information. And the other one is they mentioned that she always wanted a boy, and
she had a beautiful baby boy named Coulter.
Yeah.
And they even say that, according to accounts, that same detective that we talked about, Rick, that detective said that there are some accounts from some of the sisters where even when Lena was alive and living in the house and working 3 jobs to provide for her son, Sandy would force Coulter to call her mom. So she was fully aware of what she was doing, and I think that Chris wanted to kill Lena because Chris wanted to get rid of the third wheel. He wanted to get rid of the person that...
Get rid of the witness.
Exactly, and I think Sandy was okay with it because Sandy wanted Coulter, and she knew that if Lena was dead and Lena couldn't come to her defense, her own defense, she could file abandonment charges and she could have custody of Coulter.
Which she does.
So, the lawsuit hits in 2006, which is, at this point, Lena is gone. We don't know exactly when she died, but we know at this point that Lena is gone.
What? She went to Florida.
Court papers need to be served to Lena, Sandy, and Chris. They find Sandy, they find Chris, and they're like, Lena lives here, doesn't she? Where is she? We need to give her these papers. They're court papers. She has to have them so she can know when to appear in court. And they can't find her. And Sandy says, oh, she ran off with some guy in Florida. And she left her son with me. See? She left her son, again, trying to character defamation. So she tells them this Lena went off with some guy in Florida, right? Which we know she didn't. She is not in Florida.
Unless she went down to Florida with her mom and her mom fed her to alligators.
We've talked about that already. So, Robin says that the reason that she fears that her mother killed her sister is because Robin freaked out when she found out that Lena was missing. Obviously, that's her big sister, I have a little sister, and if I found out that my little sister was missing, I'm immediately going to freak out. I'm going to do everything in my power to help find her. And, so Robin goes out and she printed out these missing persons posters, which are homemade because Lena's not technically reported missing until 2012 or 2013, I think. And so Robin puts up all of these posters, and she finds out later that her mother, Sandy, paid one of her little sisters $5 a piece to take down the posters that she put up. Which is shady as shit. I don't understand. I assume that if your daughter was missing, you have a daughter. If your daughter was missing and your son, her older sibling, was putting up posters of her, you're not going to pay Remington to go take down the posters.
Yes, my 2-year-old's going to take down posters, but yeah, no, but, I also wouldn't have killed Gary or my daughter, so...
that's fair.
And,
Do you have a Gary?
Do I have a Gary?
Do you have a Gary? You said you wouldn't have killed Gary, so do you have a Gary that I don't know about?
No, I don't have a Gary.
No, he doesn't have a Gary. So... Obviously, all of this makes Sandy look really fucking horrible. And Lena obviously helped make Gary disappear, so it's not beyond the realm of possibilities that they took out the one witness that they knew couldn't keep their mouths shut. Because Chris and Sandy are also witnesses. Yes, they committed the crime, but they're also witnesses of each other's crimes. Yeah. But they know that neither of them are going to come forward.
They're more... I feel like they did it together, and where they kind of forced the 13-year-old to join in.
Exactly. So, in July of 2013, the court case takes place, and the confession tape is not allowed into evidence. Like I said, if Lena had never recounted or recanted her statement, it would have been admissible in court, but as she decided to recant her statement, it was not admissible in court. Brandy does take the stand, though, against her mother, to testify against her mother, and Sandy and Chris, after Sandy's testimony, which is the story about how she was held at gunpoint and had to beg for her life, and her mother paid her almost no attention. Albert says it was incredibly powerful, and that some of the jurors, cried. Which, of course, you're going to cry if you hear about this girl being held at gunpoint and her mother just doesn't give a fuck,
Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
So Sandy and Chris...
This is pretty terrible.
It's all bad. Remember when kids. I said at some point we're going to stop making jokes and you guys are going to understand why? It's horribly heinous. It's so bad. I don't even know how to fucking, explain to anybody how bad this is. It's just bad. But
yeah, it's always rough when kids are involved.
It's
especially with how they're involved in this story.
Oh yeah. So Sandy and Chris, after Brandy's testimony, are found guilty and are ordered to pay $7 million to Gary's daughters. They aren't put in prison because there's no evidence, but they are ordered to pay $7 million to Gary's children. And according to the family, they've never received any money from them. And then in 2014, Chris and Sandy divorce. Sandy remarries and raises Colton as her son. She never mentions her mother or his mother. She never, except maybe to defame her character.
Colton right now would be 17.
He was born in 2004. Is that when...
I thought he was born in
Or 2004, not
So
2014.
16. I'm sorry.
16.
He'd be almost 15 right now.
He'll be 16 in November.
Yes.
And Brandy and Robin did say that as soon as Coulter is old enough to understand, they will be telling him exactly what happened
I would
to
say
his mother.
15 is old enough to understand.
That's probably why they came out about this. They probably spoke to him.
Yeah.
And then let
Can
him
you
know that
imagine
this was going to be on
if
TV.
they haven't gotten a hold of him?
Oh, fuck.
And he's like, hey, Mom, let's watch the new Unsolved Mysteries.
He's like, got this look on his face like, what the fuck?
Wait a minute. That's
Excuse
my
you.
mom they're talking about. The fuck?
The fuck? It's that anime meme. Nani?
Don't understand what you're trying to say, but continue.
People out there who watch anime will get it. Later on, we find out that Brandy and Robin were allowed to search the former Klemp ranch, and the place where Brandy thinks that Lena was buried is a well, and the well is completely filled in. You can't even tell where it was at this point, right?
Yeah, it's gone.
And then in 2014, I believe the initial search was done in 2011, and then in 2014, they were actually allowed to take a tool that uses sonar energy and radar to look underground, and they were able to take one of those tools onto the property and search a couple of different places, and they never found where any of the remains are.
Don't really get anywhere. But, I mean, if you think about it, though.
This happened in 2006, which at this point is 14 years ago, which would give the body enough time to decompose to skeletal remains.
No, what I was about to say, though, is that considering we have reason to believe that Gary's body was burned to ash, there's reason to believe the same thing happened to Lena, and we're not going to find that body.
I mean, that's a good point. I don't think there's much point for a theories section, because there's no theories. It's just a matter of where's Lena's body. If you guys have any information about this case, please go to unsolvedmysteries.com or contact the county sheriff's department that works this case. I think her sisters would really like some closure.
I just hope Lena's ghost is haunting the fuck out of her mom.
Yo, I hope so too.
Haunt the fuck out of that woman.
I hope Lena's hiding her keys and shit. Not even
just annoying
purposely
shit.
Hurting her. Just fucking shit up so that she can't go anywhere. Oh, you have a job interview? I'm gonna take your keys and you can't find your keys anywhere.
Yeah, annoy her until Coulter's old enough to move out and then
do something horrible.
Some shitty things. Yeah. Then fuck her up.
Oh yeah.
Because unfortunately, right now, and such a bad taste in your mouth to know that this fucking psycho bitch of a woman is raising this poor kid.
This poor kid that's probably been raised to think that his mother, who according to Lena's sisters was nothing but a good person and wanted nothing but what was best for her son. He's probably been brainwashed at this point to believe that his mother was some kind of fucking drug addict.
I don't know how much, or does, he was what, 3 or no?
He was 3 when this happened. 2 or 3.
2 when his mom died. Unless he's getting some kind of relationship with his aunts, I'd be willing to bet that Sandy doesn't even tell him that Sandy probably has him call her mom. He probably doesn't even know that he's not Sandy's child.
Yeah. That's even a point to make.
No, this is a tragedy.
It's a travesty. It's absolutely fucking horrific.
Let's go, Lena's ghost. Let's go.
I just, honestly, I hope that the sisters are able to find peace, and I hope that her son one day learns about her and finds out what a wonderful woman she was, and finds out that she loved him dearly, and finds out that his mother whether he knows about his mother or not, isn't the horrible person that Sandy tries to make him out to be. You know what I'm saying? It makes me so sad. Like, the kid, he just, like, I don't know if you guys have watched the episode yet, but the kid, he just looks so sweet, and it just makes me feel so bad.
Yeah, to quote one of the podcasts that kind of, for me, inspired our podcast, My Favorite Murder, such a sweet baby angel. That poor sweet baby angel.
Yes. Like I said, guys, we're probably gonna end this episode right around here. If you guys have any suggestions or any cases that you want covered, or if you have any cases that you want exposure for, please let us know. If you guys personally have any unsolved mysteries cases that you are related to in any way, and you want them to get more exposure, you need them put out there because you guys, would like more information or would like anybody to come forward, please let us know at unsolvedcomedies@gmail.com or on our Instagram page at unsolved_comedies. Have anything you want to tag, Stephen?
Well, there's my Dragon Blazer Productions Facebook page. There is my Dragon Blazer Productions Instagram. We're also slowly starting to put all my podcast on YouTube. That's also Dragon Blazer Productions. You just search that on YouTube. I do a bunch of things on YouTube. I've been doing video game videos and putting the podcast on, so been working on trying to make that an interesting page. We are also on at Dragon Blazer Pro on Twitter. But we also have one more thing to talk about. As soon as I find it, if you remember right, we have a slight, not necessarily an update on the Alonzo.
Oh, yes.
Alonzo Brooks, but we have a Facebook. Someone I saw on Facebook who had some information, and I asked him if it would be okay if I talked about it on the podcast, and he said it was okay.
Well, go ahead and give that information then, Stephen.
Let me find it. All right. This guy's name is Weston James, and he says that he lived an hour away from Lesenge for 5 years. Pat and Jerry Boone are the guys everyone is convinced did it, but are too scared to say anything. Some of their family members also made vague threats, referencing Alonzo's murder, and drunkenly confessed on another occasion. It's a small town, and the Boone family has a lot of sway. Some of the family sits on the city council board. They own the diner that's about a block down the street from where one of Alonzo's boots was found. The Boone family is very unstable, and people are scared of them there.
Yeah, so if you guys know anything about the Boone family and their connection to Alonzo's death, please contact either the family or the police department in that area, or you can also go to unsolvedmysteries.com, which is the official website for Unsolved Mysteries, and they sort through all of the tips they get there.
So, yeah, we got a little bit of an update. Not a true update, because this is more on the rumor mill and the possibilities type situation, but so the Boone family seems to be the biggest suspects of the Alonzo Brooks case, which when we did the podcast, there really wasn't any suspects based on the episode of Unsolved Mysteries. That
would make sense if everybody in that town is afraid of them.
Yeah.
And Alonzo's friends might have, not known at the time when they went to that party, but they might have found out later that these guys were super hella powerful, and they might have been afraid to say anything,
It's possible. But, so yeah, little update. And we'll try to keep bringing updates to past cases that we do, if we can find them. And if you have any updates, feel free to send us some information.
Yes, sirree. Thank you guys so much for listening to our podcast. We hope you have a great evening.
And don't be on our next episode of Unsolved Mysteries.
There you go, guys. Have a great night.